The Mets made a move nobody questioned, quietly cutting Carl Edwards Jr. after one of his most efficient stretches. No headlines, no outrage, just another roster tweak. But hours later, their bullpen collapsed in the worst way possible, and suddenly that small decision didn't feel small anymore. And what happened next made that timing look even worse. The Mets made a move that barely registered, quietly cutting Carl Edwards Jr. after a stretch where he was actually producing. No headlines, no backlash, no real questions, just another routine roster decision. But if you look closer, the numbers told a very different story: elite whiff rates, strong outings, and signs of something sustainable. It didn't feel urgent at the time, it didn't feel costly, but just hours later, everything started to unravel. And that one overlooked decision suddenly looked a lot more dangerous than anyone expected. Because what happened next didn't just hurt, it raised a much bigger question. The Mets weren't just making a routine move, they were making it at the worst possible time. Injuries were already piling up, the bullpen was stretched thin, and stability was becoming a real concern. Yet somehow they chose to cut Carl Edwards Jr., one of the few arms quietly holding things together. It didn't spark outrage, but it definitely raised eyebrows. Because when a team is already on edge, every decision matters more, and this one felt risky. Like pulling out a piece when the whole structure is already shaking. And then the game started, and that risk became very real. The game didn't fall apart late, the warning signs were there almost immediately. Facing the Washington Nationals, the Mets looked off from the start, sloppy, unfocused, and out of sync. A costly mistake from Freddie Peralta opened the door, and hitters like Jacob Young and C.J. Abrams took full advantage. Suddenly they were down early, and it felt familiar, like a pattern beginning to repeat itself before anyone could stop it. But just when it looked like things might spiral, they did something unexpected. Just when it felt like the Mets were slipping into another frustrating loss, everything suddenly flipped. A clutch swing from MJ Melendez brought them right back into the game, injecting life into a team that looked completely out of rhythm. Then the momentum kept building, timely hitting, smarter at-bats, and contributions from players like Mark Vientos and Juan Soto turned doubt into belief. For a moment, it felt real, like they had taken control. Like this was the turning point everyone was waiting for. And that's exactly when everything started to fall apart again. Everything came down to one inning, and it unraveled fast. When Luke Weaver stepped in, the Mets still had control, but it disappeared almost instantly. A hard-hit single set the tone, and then C.J. Abrams delivered the crushing blow, a towering shot that flipped the entire game in seconds. Just like that, the lead was gone. And here's the uncomfortable part: this was exactly the kind of moment where bullpen depth matters most. The kind of moment that makes earlier decisions impossible to ignore. Because what happened after that somehow made it even worse. Just when there was still a chance to flip the script, the Mets let it slip away again. A leadoff double from Juan Soto should have been the perfect setup, but they couldn't even move him over. No execution, no urgency. Then came one last spark as Francisco Alvarez kept hope alive late. But it all ended the same way: Ronnie Mauricio chasing a pitch nowhere near the zone. Game over, opportunity wasted. And that feeling, it's becoming way too familiar. And that's when this loss started to feel like something bigger than just one game. And this is where the conversation shifts from one bad loss to something much bigger, because this wasn't just about execution, it was about decisions. The timing of cutting Carl Edwards Jr. suddenly felt impossible to ignore. A bullpen already under pressure, losing one of its more effective arms right before a late-game collapse. Coincidence? Maybe, but it definitely sparked debate. Some fans believe this is part of a deeper issue: questionable roster management and missed value hiding in plain sight. And if that's true, this might not be the last time we see it happen. In the end, this wasn't just another tough loss, it felt like a warning sign. The Mets didn't just get outplayed, they may have outthought themselves. Letting go of Carl Edwards Jr. right before a bullpen collapse exposed something deeper: fragility, questionable timing, and decisions that don't fully match the situation. Because in a season already filled with pressure, small moves don't stay small for long. They grow, they show up in the biggest moments, and sometimes they cost you games you should have won. And if this pattern keeps repeating, this season could spiral faster than anyone expects.